notebook here, my notes. Just funny because this video is about language. So ultimately, I think I've talked about this before, but all language is nonsense, really. It's all made up. And just even looking at this view, it's not really any label is just made up. But what's helped me is changing the words that I'm used to using. I find that changing the wording kind of rewires my brain, makes new neural pathways. So it's not to say certain words aren't helpful, but after a while they can be a bit of a hindrance. So Rupert Spira has helped me a lot. His message, his communication kind of adapts. He adapts his language depending on your understanding. So he might talk about awareness, but then after a while he might change that word to knowing or being. Jeff Foster mentions about changing the word healing to holding, which I resonate so much with, because as he says, and as I've come to find, healing from me had a subtle implication that you're broken, that you need fixing, but really we're just trying to, I like the word integrate, we're just trying to integrate all the things we've been suppressing. So I like that he says holding, because it's kind of like another way of saying integrating and holding our suppressed emotions, not trying to get rid of them or heal them or fix them to get rid of them. I do a lot of work with the gene keys. I find that they're really helpful, and they're one of the whole aspects of the gene keys is to integrate your shadows, like dive into them, finally let them in and not keep them at bay. It doesn't mean we go around being arseholes. It just means kind of exploring the depths of them and understanding them. I think that's the thing. So I once met a person who used to be addicted to, I think, heroin or something, and she was part of a big circle or network of people who were in recovery, and the words and the language they used were really beneficial to her at a certain stage. Being in recovery, being around people who are in recovery, who are X amount of days sober, and it was huge for her. And then at some point she didn't need it anymore, and so she left the community, and she got branded a traitor by some people, but ultimately those labels helped her to a certain point, and then she needed to drop the labels themselves because they were holding her back. They were keeping her in this recovery mentality, like constantly being careful not to slip off the wagon. And she knew she was past all that. She knew she was never going to use those substances now in those ways again, and so she dropped the labels, that's all. And so something I've mentioned in a video that that I've got in one of my playlists in a conversation I had with Matt, my friend Matt Garrett, was something I heard about, which is a tribe somewhere that has this really healthy way of integrating emotions for children as they're growing up, as opposed to suppressing them. So they treat their emotions like guests at the dinner table. They make space for them. So if the child's unhappy, they say, okay, sadness has come to dinner, let's have a seat for them at the table. And it's such a healthy way of showing children how to allow their sorrow, their anger to be, and not try to get rid of it, and not suppress it. And I was also speaking to a friend earlier, or last night, my friend Angela, and she mentioned the seat of consciousness, which is a great phrase. I love it, and also another phrase that's helped me in the past, like to recenter myself. And in that moment, I kind of thought of a new way to word it, for another stage, I guess, which is, instead of a seat of consciousness, why not call it the table of consciousness, which has a seat for all your emotions, all your moods, all your feelings, which is kind of combining that whole thing about the tribe I just mentioned. So changing the seat of consciousness into the table of consciousness is another great way of rewiring and changing the way we use words. So language can be a great tool. a great tool. A great tool. It can be a great tool. Sound like Elmer Fudd then. Wabbits. Yeah, you can see how language gets so it gets twicky, swippery. Anyway, it's a great tool, but ultimately it's a tool, and each of these tools can be disposable, much like the whole concepts to remove concepts video. Like, change the tools, find a different tool, a more precise tool, and keep discarding the old tools. That's what I'm saying to myself. Sounds like I'm telling you to do this. I'm telling me to do this, really. But yeah, keep discarding the tools, and use it then lose it, because ultimately all language is nonsense. So I'm just finding different tools to replace the old ones, until eventually you can let go of all the tools. And that doesn't mean we're still going to use the tools, otherwise I'm just going to sit here and have a video of 9 minutes of silence. So yeah, we don't have to completely lose the tools. But anyway, here is where I'm talking nonsense, because words are just failing me again, so I'm just going to stop there. Yeah, enjoy.